Welcome to OG Overtime. I'm Joe Ovies, and Joe Giglio and I chatted with Don Waddell, President, General Manager of the Carolina Hurricanes, on Tuesday afternoon. The reason for this preamble is because I want to give a little context to when we had this conversation and the news that's happened between that conversation and when you're actually hearing this. We covered a lot of ground, everything from what gambling will look like at PNC Arena when it goes live on March 11th, what's up with the Backyard Bistro, what's up with the redevelopment as they've moved on to a new architect, and of course, hockey, the most important part. What is this team going to look like before and after the trade deadline, if anything at all? And of course, the point of focus has been on goaltending. I don't have to tell you, if you're a Canes fan, there's been a lot of ups and downs when it comes to that position. Most importantly, Freddie Andersen and the blood clotting. He's been out since November. They've been giving you hints here and there about his potential return. I remember we talked to Rod Brindamore last month. He said it was getting closer. They kept saying it's getting closer. And Don Waddell referenced it when we talked to him on Tuesday, but now we actually have an official statement from the Carolina Hurricanes to have a better idea of how much longer Freddie Andersen will be sidelined. This is from Don Waddell, official statement from the Carolina Hurricanes. Quote, Frederick has resumed off-ice activities without complication and will begin limited on-ice conditioning. Andersen also said that he was thrilled to be a step closer to getting back and playing again. So I wanted to set that context from when we talked to Don Waddell on Tuesday and the news of the day. I don't think a lot has changed, but a better idea of where we are right now with the Carolina Hurricanes. So enjoy. Joining us on the Heister Automotive Group Hotline, President, General Manager of the Carolina Hurricanes. He is Don Waddell. The Canes are at the break. We appreciate you making some time before you jet off to what, Cancun? You hanging out with Seth Jarvis? What's going on?
It's a business trip. I'm going to get out of town for a couple of days, but it's all business. And, we run a pretty big operation here, and we're going to keep it going.
That operation's only getting bigger, Joe.
I love that umbrella there, Don, because I feel like you could legitimately go to a casino and be like, hey, these are research purposes for this business trip. I like that.
You think I could expense any losses?
No, I've been told you can't expense losses, but the hotel stay, potentially. I think you can work on some of those things.
Sure. Yeah, there's no doubt about it. But yeah, I won't be seeing any casinos on this trip.
Well, let's talk about the gambling. March 11th. It's finally happening. We have a start date with March 11th, and you now have an official sports wagering partner with Fanatics. So let's start out with why Fanatics, with a lot of competition with this with sports wagering. Why Fanatics and the Carolina Hurricanes?
Well, they're newer into the gambling world. A couple years old now. They did the Columbus Blue Jackets, and we obviously spoke to them, and they're very pleased with their deal and how they've handled it since then. So obviously, Fanatics is a huge company. We're all familiar with them for their brands and so forth. And the other thing is, we whether it happens immediately, we want to have a retail sports book. We want to be able to have our customers come in and, if they so choose to make a wager at a sporting event or whatever they're here for, be able to do that. The problem is the big boys, they all know 97% of the revenue comes from mobile. Mm-hmm. There's not much money to be made, but for us, the retail is more of something that we can offer for our customers and our fans that are coming to the arena for all the events.
So what's that retail supposed to look like? I mean, is it help kiosk? Is it actually taking bets there at a window? I mean, all the speculation around the Backyard Bistro spot, how's that going to look?
Yeah, I would say as of today, it's more kiosks, not the Backyard Bistro. We're going to use that as more of a sign-up area. But in time, we will have a live sports cage and things that go with that.
All right, so this thing becomes live. What kind of education do you have to do on this? Because we've seen this in the NFL. That isn't to say that the NHL hasn't gone over this with the players or the Players Association hasn't gone over with them. But I think the last thing anybody wants to see is like a 5-game or 10-game suspension for somebody for placing a bet on the Super Bowl from the locker room or the team hotel or some of the things that we've seen with NFL players. So how have you tried to educate your players about what they're allowed to do, what they're not allowed to do when it comes to gambling?
Right. Every year, the National Hockey League Player Association meets with the players and talks about the do's and don'ts. We haven't had to worry about it in our state until now. So we'll have our own meeting with the players and talk about the process, what you can and can't do. As you said, nobody can bet on hockey. No players, employees, anybody that works for me or for us cannot bet on hockey. It's very simple that way. And if you think you're going to get around it with burner accounts or whatever, you're going to get caught eventually. It's just a matter. All these casinos, they're on top of this, and they don't want to lose their privilege of being able to carry the professional sport. So we will do more education, but I think the Player Association does a really good job each year at their annual meeting talking to the players about what they can and can't do.
How comfortable are you guys in game or in between periods kind of promoting what you have there and some of the options that you have? Because I think it will be something that people are interested in.
I watched the NFL games last weekend, and every commercial there is, they give you what the live bets are.
Right.
Well, I know a little bit about gambling. I don't know all the things about all the live bets, but you even go on the National Hockey League webpage, and the first thing you see is the odds for tonight's game. So I think you don't have a choice as far as if you're going to try to sell some of your advertising to some of these gambling organizations, you're going to have to show it. And I think everybody's getting used to it now. Maybe a few years ago when you first started seeing it on the NFL, where it started really early, but now I think everybody's used to it.
I guess the only other question that I would have about gambling at PNC Arena, is it Fanatics and all other online sports books, or is it going to be geo-fenced exclusive to Fanatics when this gets going?
You don't think we would do that, do you?
Be geo-fenced exclusive to a Fanatics?
Yeah.
Your fellow teams do that.
Yeah, I mean, that happens.
No, I know. We've talked about it. We actually have Fanatics coming in here in the next week to 10 days for not just that, but lots of topics, because yes, it has been talked about. There's been no decision made at this point.
Okay. And I understand that Fanatics does a lot more than just sports wagering. So
they sell their jerseys.
They sell their jerseys and stuff like that. So
sports cards now too.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
They're taking over the
and
whole
they have ownership in the NHL too, by the way.
Yes, they do. Okay, that was my only other curiosity with that, because confusing people. I'm like, oh, okay, sports wagering is legal. I've got this app that I've been wanting to use because I see this other one, and then suddenly it doesn't work. People need to understand that it might be like that in certain places because of the technology that's available. So I was curious about that. So that is an unknown at this point. Let's talk about. Well, wait, one other thing before we talk about hockey. I know we do need to talk about hockey. All of this is related to the updates at PNC Arena and what happened later in 2023. And I guess the news is that there's a change in the architect, a change in who's planning. Has this affected any of the timeline when it comes to the changes at PNC Arena that are on deck?
Yeah, the Centennial Authority, who actually owns the building, we operate the building. They control the process for RFPs and RFQs for putting out for bids for these positions. And the architects that were hired have been let go. We've kind of felt since we started this in September or so that the process has been very, very slow and not accomplishing something that a lot of us could do in a day or so if we had the right tools. And so the authority got involved. They've always been involved, but realized the last probably 3 weeks or so that this partnership wasn't in the best interest of anybody. So they made a decision to let them go, and now they got an RFP out for another new agency that would represent the authority, and we'd be able to work with. So does it delay anything we're talking about? It could. It just depends on how long this lasts. We weren't talking about anything major this summer. We've been talking about adding a club on the first level, on the arena level, for our front row seat holders and things like that. So we knew it was going to take us a year and a half for good planning. And then the other thing is, we have to plan around the teams and the events. Now we do have another project that is going to get started. That's in the star dressing rooms, the locker rooms down for visiting. We always get rated as the worst locker rooms in the league, which I'm okay with. But we tried to do it last year, but we ran into with the shortage of parts and labor and everything else, supplies. So that will happen this summer.
Is that a competitive advantage to those visitor locker rooms?
it's kind of funny when somebody comes in and they complain about their locker rooms. To me, they're worried more about where they're going to take a shower than worry about playing the game. So it works out.
To clarify on the project at the arena there, I'm going to sound like a jerk here for a second. I used to make fun of Duke football forever because they put out this phases of how they were going to renovate their football stadium. Mm-hmm. And phase one was the women's bathrooms. And I would always make fun of it. But the truth of the matter was they did not have bathrooms for women.
Yeah.
So it was like a really important thing to do.
Yeah, man.
But I'm just kind of curious. Do you have because it does seem nebulous and now you're switching architects and all this other stuff. Do you have like an idea of what is actually going to come first? I know the NC State fans are worried you're going to put up 78 parking decks and take away all of the football parking. But is there like in your circle, do you have a concrete idea? Okay, this is what we're going to start with. And then this is ultimately what the goal is that we've seen with the development of the area.
Yeah, so you got two different projects going on. You know, when we talk about in PNC Arena, that is run by the authority. We talk about anything we do within the walls. Once you hit the parking lot, that becomes a private development, which we've had lots of meetings with all the key stakeholders involved. The plans have probably changed 20 times. They'll probably change another 5 or 6 times. There's some things that we really need to help the site be as efficient as possible, and that's ingress and egress. We can't, if you're going to have a business district and a sports entertainment district, they can't cross over each other because people that are coming to if somebody's going to go for dinner one night and they say, well, there's an event going on there, I'm not going to get stuck in that. Mm-hmm. So we've actually got some great ideas and some plans, but it's also, we've had a lot of meetings with DOT to try to figure out what the best way to conquer this. We got the experts in the field working on it. And, we know there's going to be, the end of the day, there's going to be a Live Nations, hopefully, amphitheater. Mm-hmm. 4,500 seat, and then we're working on 2 hotels, housing, retail, 1 office tower to start with, room to build out. But right now I don't know if office towers is the best place you want to spend all your capital. So we do have plans. Do we have anything yet that we can roll out to the public? No, because some of this is all going to depend on where we end up getting access to the property.
Don Waddell's hanging out with us here on Ovies and Giglio on the Heister Automotive Group hotline. All right, so while you're worried about architecture, you're worried about gambling.
Ingress and egress.
This is important. This is very important. We're talking about gambling, amphitheaters, everything else. Do you have a separate phone for trade discussions, a separate phone from other GMs? You have a phone for all this business stuff, and then you got a hockey phone. How does that work for Don Waddell?
I had to add another one for Backyard Bistro, but there's one line that strictly pretty much hockey. There's a few people that might dial me up on it, but you stay in touch. I talked to a couple of GMs today. If you stay in touch with people, it doesn't mean you're always going to know what's going on. Mm-hmm. But you call, see where they're headed, what they're looking for, give them what we feel we would need. And, just try to get some traction that if something does become available, that you're releasing the game.
Okay.
You're not going to be in every deal. It's just impossible because there's going to be deals made that you have no idea what's going on. But if it's somebody that you're in a deal that knows you're looking for something, you might get that phone call before they make a deal. It doesn't mean you're going to get the player, but it might be a spot that you can get some traction.
It's fairly obvious with your squad. It's goaltending. It's actually pretty impressive that the Canes have been able to be in the position that they're in, given the very unforeseen events with Freddie Anderson, injuries, ups and downs, and everything else. The quality of goaltending compared to where your record is and the production you guys have had. So how do you handle this with just over a month before the trade deadline?
Yeah, great question. Koch is back. He got he backed up our last home game. He's cleared, 100% go. We got to give Ranta credit. He carried us through a tough spot there, and he all he does is he doesn't have the best numbers in the world, just wins games. Mm-hmm. Finds a way to win games. So we're very confident that those 2 guys can carry the mail. Obviously, we picked up Spencer Martin, who was an insurance policy that already paid off because he went in Boston and beat the Bruins in Boston, which is not something that happens on a regular basis. I think
you guys have made it work. Like it's all credit to the team and Rod Brind'Amour. You guys have made it work. Yeah. But now you have to make decisions.
Well, we can't let you skate with Koch, by the way. I live for your pronunciation of Peter's last name.
Kochetkov.
I
am the worst. Yeah, it used to be a joke around the draft when I was in Atlanta NHL. When we step up to the floor, the microphone to make an announcement of a player, they all knew which guys I weren't taking because I couldn't pronounce their names. I wasn't going to take them. So that's my history of the league, and that's everybody knows that. But Freddie's making progress, doing a lot more off the ice. I'm pretty confident now at this point. It's 90 days and the medicine is coming up here, which was a critical point to get through. The blood clots are doing well, so they're gone. So I would suspect, we don't have a timetable on, but we should be in pretty good shape with goaltending the rest of the season.
You guys have been hesitant in the past to make big moves near the deadline because you feel like you have a system. It takes a minute to get adjusted to that system. You make your moves in the offseason. Totally understand that. Goalie, though, might be something different in your mindset. I'm curious, is goalie different at that? You wouldn't need a guy who, is coming in trying to learn how to, forecheck and all the other systems that you guys have. Is there a difference in your brain?
Yeah, 100%. If you need a goalie, if it proved out by March 9th that we need a goalie, then, that's a way different position. Doesn't have to worry about their forechecking back pressure and everything else. Just needs to stop the puck. So, yes, I would 100% agree with you that position would be different. Hopefully we're not in that spot where we have to use assets or cap space and all that for a goalie. Hopefully we'll be able to do something else.
Related to that, Dmitry Orlov scored a big goal for you guys against Arizona in your last game, and it seems like the light seems to be coming on for a guy. I know that's an all-star in your league, but it just feels like he's starting to figure out how to play in your system. That has to be encouraging for you to see.
Yeah, 100%. The problem, Dimitri's used to playing 22, 23 minutes a night. And our team, when you come here and you already have Slavin and Shea and Burns and Pesci, you're not going to get 23 minutes. It's just Roddy. Our defense was, I thought, the best in the league last year, and I think it's pretty darn good again this year. So, and I think that speaks when you got Orlov playing in your third period. But so he has adjusted to that. There's some nights, I think the last game played 16 and a half, almost 17 minutes. So if he continues to play, remember, he's our most physical defenseman we have too. He's solid. When he hits somebody, it is hard. So we need him in a lineup. And, I think the coaches are getting more trust in him. And, it's not about him scoring goals. He scored a great goal the other night to win the game. It's not about that. It's about making sure you take care of your own zone. And if you do that, you're going to be fine.
Giglio likes to point out that Rod Brind'Amour, he'll bring up the thing that he wants you to talk about, right?
He'll let you know.
This is the thing that I
be paying attention.
These are my talk. I would love it if you guys asked me these questions, right? And while he's been upfront about goaltending, like, yeah, this is great, but we got good goaltending. That's why we won. It's very, very simple. What was he bringing up the other day? The schedule, right?
He was on the schedule the other day. Nobody really wants to talk about the schedule. And we were on the road there for a little bit of stretch, and it does seem like you are taking advantage of the backside of that now. Was it a trade worth it for you? Or would you like to see the thing balanced out a little bit more?
Well, some of it we don't have a choice. With the state fair coming in for 14 days, and then we've always had Disney on Ice in the first week of December there, which is going to go away or go to a different time frame moving forward. Our building's busy, and you'd rather we always talk about it. I mean, Rod and I talk about it all the time, and then when we get our schedule, so it looks good saying, okay, we'll get these road trips out of the way. Don't realize how many games you end up playing on the road. I think we were 24 and 15 at one time on the road. But certainly we are conscious about it. Sometimes you can't prevent it. The one thing you don't want to do is just always these single game trips where you come home. Like we got it coming up where you go play at home, go to Washington for a night, come home, play, go back out to Pittsburgh. That's worse on you than going on the road for 4 or 5 days and playing 3 games. So less time in the year is always better for everyone, all of us.
Don Waddell, President, General Manager, Carolina Hurricanes.
Oh, we got one more question, though.
One more?
Yeah. This is a maintenance for Svech?
Maintenance as far as right now?
Yeah, like you knew you had this break coming up.
Yeah.
Let's just be careful with him in terms of.
He wanted to play that last game. There was no reason to put him in that game. He was still sore. Okay. Give him 9 days now. Totally had, almost 17, 18 days off. So, we know how important Svech is to our hockey club. You look last year in the playoffs, once we lost him, it was a tough road for us. So we got to, these games are all important, as I say, but there's going to be more important games coming up in the next few months.
Don Waddell, we appreciate the time as always. Enjoy your break, even though it's a working vacation, and we will talk to you later.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.